Welcome in to Stop the Takes. We are live on YouTube on Monday. Special show on Monday. The only thing special about it is that it is not on Thursday. We
Correct.
were originally going to have a recorded, we still probably will have a clip go out on Thursday, but we were able to still get in a live show this week and wanted to go ahead and cover rookie debuts. So we did do a video on Shedeur specifically, actually at halftime of that game. So if you haven't had a chance to check that one out, go check that out, as that was our immediate reaction, kind of going drive by drive on how he played. We'll obviously still touch on him some in this. But yeah, diving into rookie debuts. Want to preface this by saying, obviously, a ton of rookies played. We are going to go through, kind of starting with quarterbacks and then go through some other notable first rounders and then dive into kind of our top 5 guys that stood out to us. And then we'll have a lot of honorable mentions, probably some other guys we want to shout out. So apologies if we don't touch on your guy, for your team. Yeah, I believe that there were a ton of third, fourth undrafted free agents that probably played really well. So we're excited to keep watching them. But hopefully this will, at the very least, be a change of pace from everybody proclaiming certain guys as Hall of Famers after 20 snaps of preseason play.
Yes.
We are going to bring a much more nuanced conversation to their debuts. So with that in mind, Austin, what was your kind of immediate overview, thoughts on the rookies and this class and how they performed starting out of the gate?
Yeah, for one, happy football's back. That's the number one thing. I told you off air, this is the most locked into preseason I've been. It's been fun just watching the games together and now covering the games. And then for secondly, I think the biggest takeaway, which is what we'll dive into a lot, is some of the quarterback play, man. Kind of generally viewed as a weaker quarterback class, this 2025 class. However, I thought a lot of them played pretty well overall. Not perfect. There were some rookie mistakes in there, but I thought they all had pretty solid debuts. And then some of the blue chip prospects in the class we'll get into later looked really good. And we'll kind of get into that with our top 5 and talking about some non-quarterback prospects as well. But yeah, man, just happy football's back and some good performances and ready to get into that.
It is back. And yeah, you're completely agreed too. Most locked in for preseason ever, but it's good. Football's back. So with that in mind, we'll start at the top. We'll start at number 1 overall, Cam Ward. Debuted against the Bucks. I think it was raining in the beginning of that game or leading up to it. So, elements played a role to a degree. But yeah, what were your thoughts on how Cam Ward looked in his debut?
Yeah, I got to start with the coverage of Cam Ward has been one of the weirdest things I've kind of witnessed, Dakota. He's absolutely kind of going under the radar as a number 1 pick. And as a quarterback, number 1 pick, like that's kind of unheard of. I mean, usually the quarterback who goes number 1 overall gets a lot of love. His game wasn't even aired on the NFL Network.
No.
And hopefully, if we ever blow up with this podcast one day, hopefully the NFL doesn't listen to this. But me and Dakota may have illegally streamed the game so we could actually watch the game and actually see what Cam Ward did in his debut. I just thought it was ridiculous. They had like Packers Jets on instead. Just kind of nonsense how they handled his debut. But overall, he only played 2 drives, so very small sample size. He looked really good to me, man. He did have the one bad throw that should have been an interception. And you can't just ignore that. That's kind of part of his game. He has some of those in there. But I thought he looked really comfortable. Found Calvin Ridley a ton. It's very clear that their connection is legit. Like, Calvin Ridley's probably in for a really big year. So yeah, I mean, overall good debut. Made some nice throws. The arm strength is apparent. I mean, that's what stood out to me, the arm strength. And yeah, I mean, him and Calvin Ridley look like they're on the same page.
Yeah, he started off a little rocky on that first drive. Didn't get a completion, which one of them wasn't really his fault. But then on that second one, kind of got in. His first completion was that kind of like deep to right, pass to Calvin Ridley. And then I feel like he just kind of got into rhythm. It's similar to Shedeur when we talked about him, where it's like, I think once they got that first completion and kind of in rhythm, right? They got into their groove. But yeah, I thought overall too. Again, it blew my mind, and I'm biased obviously as a Titans fan, but like to not have. I would love to know when the last time the number one overall pick did not have their first preseason game televised, because that's insane to me. Like
It's insane.
that's just a flaw. That's ridiculous by the NFL, because like a lot of people keep talking about how he's the least covered number one pick, which I feel like is counterintuitive to the degree, because it's like you could just be talking about him instead of talking about him not being covered by a lot of these outlets. But they're at least bringing some conversation by doing that. And the NFL is just like, no, we don't even know this
Well,
guy exists.
it goes back to the draft, dude. I mean, it goes all the way back to the
Yeah,
draft when ESPN was covering the Cam Ward pick. They weren't even talking about Cam Ward. They weren't even showing
no,
Cam Ward. They were showing Shedeur Sanders and talking about Shedeur Sanders. It was, yeah, it's been weird. It's been unlike anything I've ever seen. But you know, it's the Cam seems like the kind of guy that'll give him a chip on his shoulder and he'll kind of use
yeah,
that. Um, but yeah, dude, like you said, the not a lot to watch from the performance. Again, it's only 2 drives, but he led a scoring drive. 1 out of 2 drives, you lead a scoring drive. You can't ask for much more, I think. But we also have to touch on, just if we're talking Titans in general, their offensive line looked night
yeah.
and day compared to what they have been in years past, dude. He had a very clean pocket the whole time, which is, I mean, it can't go understated how important it is to fix the O-line when you get a franchise quarterback in there, especially a young rookie franchise quarterback, because a bad O-line can break those players. We've seen that time and time again. As a Colts fan, I know Andrew Luck. I mean, literally not protecting Andrew Luck is what caused him to retire early. So having a solid to good offensive line, which it seems like the Titans now we're going to have. I mean, again, it's 1 game sample size, but that's I mean, you know, as a Titans fan, that's the cleanest pocket that a Titans quarterback has had in years.
It literally is. That was probably one of the things that stood out the most, and I still think he didn't panic in the pocket, because there's still a lot of quarterbacks where just because your first read or second read's not there, they just feel like they need to leave. Like that's
Yep.
become like, and it's college driven a bit on the way that offenses work, where it is kind of like a 1-2 read offense. So then if it's not there, you run. But he stood in there. But yeah, that was probably one of the most insane parts of the entire game, was how well the offensive line looked. But he did have a few really good throws in there. His zip showed.
Yep.
And then yeah, the one play that should have been a pick was not great. And you know, Ellick was open, the rookie was open, and he just tried to get it over and just did not put enough on it. So hopefully he learns from that. And I think that's a good use case of like these young guys understanding what you could get away with in college and what you now can't. So it's good to try those things. I want to see him do that in preseason so he can learn from it. The one thing I have to say that blew my mind, that I know I complained to you about, is that they got down to 1st and goal and did not throw the ball a single time. Which I
Yeah.
just felt like was a ridiculous decision by Callahan, to not let your rookie quarterback get an opportunity to try to, like, why do I need to see running snaps there? I don't know. It's just crazy to me that you didn't give him a chance to try to throw a touchdown or at least make a play near the goal line.
Yeah, it's fair. It's some of the philosophy that these coaches take into preseason games, like scoring there really doesn't matter. Like scoring a rushing touchdown there really doesn't matter. I mean, you end up losing the game by like 20 points. Like winning the game is clearly not the goal here. So it feels like the goal should probably be get your young quarterback an in-game rep of, you know, tight red zone throws that are, you know, you don't get that in practice. You can practice it all day
No.
long. It's different when it's in the game. Everyone knows that. So it was kind of weird. But going back to your Cam Ward and the pocket and the clean pocket, I agree. I mean, he clearly has a nice feel for the pocket, which is something that we'll talk about on the show a lot. You can't teach quarterbacks. And we might get into some guys later that had clean pockets but panic. I mean, it's just that can happen, especially when you're a rookie. It's genuinely the very first time these guys are in NFL game action. And yes, it was a nice pocket, but it is also nice that the quarterback had a good feel for that nice pocket.
Yeah, and we can use that as kind of a segue into Shedeur a little bit again,
Okay.
because of the red zone thing, and you mentioning making those windows, because that's
Yep.
exactly what happened with him. Is they
Yep.
gave him the opportunity to make that play, and then he did, and his best throw of the game happened because they decided to try to throw the ball in a goal to go situation. So it is a little disappointing that Callahan did kind of the number 2 overall. It's the thing below. Oh, there it goes. He's like the consensus number 2 quarterback. I know Dart was drafted next, but we'll focus on Shedeur next for just a sec because we did do that full video. But I mean, he looked good. Shedeur
Yeah.
looked good in his debut. I mean, he had like 1 or 2 throws in there that weren't great, but he also played more snaps. I mean, he played basically an entire half, and had a handful of solid NFL tight window throws that were impressive.
Yeah, Shedeur looked really, really good. I don't think PFF ended up charting that should have been interception as a turnover worthy play. I think they kind of put more blame on the receiver. But it's not like everything was perfect. The biggest thing that we kind of touched on in our live reaction after the Shedeur debut was him running around in the pocket trying to make a play that's just not there. He does that a little bit too much. But overall, the Shedeur debut was fantastic. Again, another rookie who just was very calm and very composed. He immediately looked like he belonged, which you don't always get. You really don't always get that. That's not a given, especially for a guy who ended up getting picked in the 5th round. It's definitely not a given for a 5th round pick. But yeah, I mean, you mentioned the tight window throws in the red zone, extremely impressive. Both of those throws, I think those 2 were the ones charted as big time throws for PFF. I think that's what Steve mentioned on Check the Mic. I mean, both were really nice throws. And he also had, and I'll keep pointing to this play, which I thought was one of his more impressive, was when they were backed up in their own end zone on 3rd and 8, gets hit by 2 different defenders and zips a ball in there. Now, the guy made a phenomenal one-handed catch, but it didn't really feel like he needed one hand. It feels like he could have went up with 2. So yeah, I mean, I thought that play was really, really nice because I mean that's a play where it's like if you get sacked in there, it's going the other way. It's going to the defense. It's going to be at safety. So yeah, Shedeur was really, really good, dude. And yes, was some of the production against backups? Yes, it was. However, some of it was against the starters, or at least most of the starters. And he was playing with the backups, which is something that has to be noted, right? Like he's not out there with Jerry Jeudy. He's not out there with Tillman. It's like he's also with the Browns backups. So, I mean, that has to be noted. But I also will say it's not the greatest preseason performance ever. And it is still a preseason game, which it is notable. I mean, preseason football is not the same as regular season football. And kind of the example I brought to you off the air, Dakota, was as Browns fans, which I mean, a lot of the Shedeur people will be Browns fans, right? They want to see their next potential franchise quarterback. If Myles Garrett's in the game or on the sidelines during preseason, that changes the equation, right? If he's not rushing the passer against Bryce Young, that changes everything. Like that is a meaningful guy not on the field. JC Horn wasn't in this game. He would have made an impact on the field. So it's like, yes, the starters not being in, it does matter. It doesn't take away from what Shedeur did, which was really, really good. But yes, it matters that the starters weren't playing.
And I think that's a really good way of putting it too, because comparing to Cam Ward was playing with the number 1 offense as well. So he did play with the starters because he's projected to obviously be the guy, but he did play with the starting offensive line, Calvin Ridley, the full starting team. And Shedeur did play with, and on that play you were talking about, 5'8" Luke Floria from Kent State UDFA that made that catch, where if it's literally any normal size receiver, he doesn't have to one-hand catch that. It's like a perfect pass. But he's playing with this guy. And yeah, again, that's where the nuance comes in, because like you can't take away the NFL window throws. That is the stuff that you should focus on the most, because it doesn't matter if it's preseason, regular. Like that is a thing that happened irregardless of who or where it was on the field. He threw the ball into a position that was an NFL level throw. But everything else around him, it's more nuanced than that. He did have an easier situation given the defense he's playing against. So I think the moral of the story there is like there's no reason to take victory. There is no ability to take
None.
victory laps on anything for
None.
preseason, anything
None.
really, even
That
just from
applies
one
to all
season
these
of
players,
play.
by the way.
Exactly, and like that. To be honest, and you and I would agree with it, like that goes for even just a season of play.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
Jaden Daniels, we've talked about a lot, who we still think is going to be great, but like regression is one season. So it's like
Yeah.
one preseason game was enough for people to be like, we need to apologize to Mel Kiper.
Let's not stitch up the gold jacket just yet. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. And it's frustrating from both ends. We talk about this. It's
Yeah.
frustrating from the people that are like, oh, well, I guess Mel Kiper was right. I guess it was justified that he used 50% of the draft coverage talking about Shedeur and he basically rubbed it in everybody's face that he wasn't drafted higher. It's like that's completely justified. Or you have the other end being like, well, none of it matters. He had a 79 PFF grade, even though he only played half the game. So it wasn't even that good of a performance. It's like, no, it was a good, and I would even say a great performance from a rookie quarterback making his rookie debut, playing with, let's be honest, a lot of guys that probably aren't going to be on rosters, come the regular season. It's like, yes, it's a good performance, but it's not. That doesn't mean the Shedeur believers are right. Like we're going to need to see more. He's still, he's not. I don't think he'll be the starter to start the season, Dakota. I don't. I think it's going to be Flacco. I mean, it looks like it's going to be Flacco. Now, at some point, listen, as a prospect, I think me and you both like Shedeur Sanders over Gabriel, who they drafted higher, by the way. So the Browns didn't agree with us on that. They thought Dylan Gabriel was better. But at this point, I think Sanders is definitely fighting for QB2. Like Dylan Gabriel needs to come in and show that, at least show what Shedeur showed or be as good, if not better than Shedeur to take QB2. So I think we will see Shedeur at some point during the regular season, but we just need to know more. We need more data points. Like before we come out and say it's like, well, everyone was wrong on Shedeur. He should have been the second overall pick or maybe even the first overall pick over Cam Ward. We just need more data points, man. And that goes for, again, like I said earlier, all of these guys we're going to cover on today's show.
Yep. And that is a good synopsis of, again, what our entire show is about. Because what you're describing is, like the extreme over here, the extreme over here, but 90% of the time things fall here. And people don't want to have that conversation, but that I think is a good way to describe Shedeur's debut, which again was great.
Yes.
But it doesn't mean it's time to take victory laps, and it doesn't mean you need to trash the guy. And it makes it tough when dealing with the shouty showness of I hate that it makes you almost want to root against people because of that. Yeah, it's just rough. But yeah, we'll see. And I do think, and one interesting thing was from seeing him mic'd up was the interaction he had with Myles Garrett on the sideline, which was kind of cool to see. I think it was a better light into just Shedeur as a person, a little bit more likable in that sense. And like, it also seemed like Myles liked him and was like, we'll need you around, buddy. So solid debut. That was
interesting. I will say, I think he's had a couple clips like that now of talking to Myles Garrett in particular. And it was interesting because like it seemed like they were just playing around, but then Shedeur was like genuinely like asking Myles Garrett, it's like, how would I avoid you in this game? Because in the back of his mind, he knows it's like, well, I gotta beat guys like that. Which I mean, Myles Garrett's in his own category, right? So thankfully, he won't have to go against him in real game reps. But he's genuinely curious. It's like, how do I beat a elite pass rusher like Myles Garrett in live game action?
Yeah, and when he asked to or said that he wanted to feel one of his like swipes when he tries to grab a quarterback, but it literally came off to me as like a little kid saying it to like their favorite athlete. Yes. Like I feel like the respect level was there of him being like, this dude is on a different plane of existence than me right now. So, which was cool to see. All right, so that Shedeur. Now let's move on to Dart. Jackson Dart, the other first-round quarterback. And again, I feel like we're a broken record a little bit, but he looked good as well.
He did.
He had a solid debut.
That's why I started off the show saying I was impressed with the quarterbacks, man. Again, a guy who looked comfortable. And he started the game. Well, actually, excuse me, Russ started the game, but he came in shortly after Russ. And he looked extremely comfortable. The touchdown throw was probably the best throw out of any rookie this preseason week one. Absolutely phenomenal throw. Deep pass down the sideline where he was again getting hit. He was under pressure and just, no pun intended, but darted it in there. And and he also showed some things with his legs that I don't think we we didn't see as much of that at Ole Miss. He made some plays with his legs, but he didn't look as athletic. I mean, it looked like his athleticism will play in the NFL, which is a big deal, right? Like that's not,
Mhm.
that's one of the biggest questions about guys making that transition. Will the athleticism play? It looks like Jackson Darts will play. And again, I feel just like I said with Shedeur, I think we'll see Jackson Dart at some point in this season. I think that's kind of like everyone's, feeling about this. Like it'll be Russ about through 5-6 weeks, and then they'll go to Dart, and we'll see what Dart has, man. And Dart could literally be the reason Dayball and Joe Shane end up keeping their jobs, right? If they hit on Dart, then that could change the franchise. And we're gonna talk about another guy that they drafted later, the Giants, dude. If they hit on Dart, they're a team to watch out for, man.
Yeah, their last couple drafts have been quietly good because they've been so bad. But they have been building a solid roster. But yeah, Dart looked. I mean, I think your description of it was perfect too. Of like he just looked comfortable, which is the thing you probably worry about the most with rookies is when they get back there and they just look out of place. Which are when we talk about some of the worst performances later at the end of this. There were moments of that where guys just did not look like they belong in the NFL or on a football field for that matter. And Dart looked comfortable the entire time. And I think I saw Chase Daniel break this down, but I think he also he audibled it, or for college football Madden term of hot routing. But he actually checked, I think, that receiver into a go route. He made a hand gesture right
Oh
before that. So
wow.
I think he even recognized the blitz was coming and he was about to have single man coverage and told his receiver to go make a play, and then he put a perfect pass. So if that's also true, then it's even more impressive that he checked to that and then made the throw in the face of pressure. Incredibly impressive.
I didn't realize that. That's a really good point. And it's fascinating, dude, because a lot of his analysis coming out of college was, well, he's in this limited offense where he's not asked to do much. He's not asked to make many reads. So then like people assume he can't do it. It's like, well,
Mhm.
if he was never asked to do it, we don't really know if he can do it or not yet. Like you have to see and get him in the NFL and actually see if he can do it. And in the short sample, again, it's a small sample, but it looks like he has the ability to run more complex offenses and recognize things like that you just noted. So yeah, man. I mean, literally all three of the first round rookie quarterbacks look really good. You could argue Dart had the best performance. You could also argue Shedeur. Or I said the three. I assume Shedeur is drafting the first round because that's where he was projected. But fifth round pick Shedeur Sanders. But yeah, I mean, yeah, overall, Dart looked really good. And I know Giants fans are amped right now. Again, it's one game, it's one preseason game, but I don't blame Giants fans. If I'm like the Giants are one of those teams that's like I could easily see them going from like last to first, and maybe not this year, but next year time frame.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think I fixate on. I think it's easier to focus on the positives in preseason than the negatives. In
Sure.
terms of like, if you play terribly in the preseason, there's not much hope there for the most part. But like, if you look good, then you can cling to that. It obviously doesn't mean you're going to be good player consistently in NFL, but showing that immediately as well, especially a guy like Dart, where like most people did not feel like he was a first round quarterback. And the Giants kind of had to take a shot, traded up to get him. So for him to step in and immediately look like he belonged, even in a preseason game, like the same nuance exists for him as it does for Shedeur. But
Correct.
it's still promising. And yeah, if I'm a Giants fan, I'm feeling pretty solid right now. I'd be like, okay, I want to see more of that, and let's see what we can do because I don't know if he's not playing with like Malik either yet. So um, we'll see. But let's move on now to some other notable first round guys. So probably the biggest one being Travis Hunter. Um, Travis Hunter played did not play very many snaps. I think he played like 19 total or something like that.
Yeah, that
Um,
sounds right.
and I mean, there wasn't a ton to see in terms of how he was playing. Like I think he had a few opportunities on offense, and then he had like one relatively poor tackle attempt on defense. But other than that, there wasn't a ton that he was involved in.
There wasn't a ton of plays he was involved in, but I will. renote this from our draft analysis and discussion on Travis Hunter. It's insanely impressive that
Mhm.
in 2025 we're getting a guy playing both sides of the ball. I mean, he did it in this game. Now, he didn't do it full time. He only did about a drive of each or maybe 2 drives of each. But the fact that he's playing receiver and corner, it's insanely impressive. And people have to recognize that because, I think since a lot of people like Genty and the Heisman discussion, like it was so heated between Genty and Hunter, a lot of people hated Hunter just because of that. But him doing this is ridiculous. Whether even if he struggles at cornerback, dude, it's really really impressive. The tackle was bad, but that was part of his part of his negative part of his tape coming out of college, right? Like he was never known as a good tackler. So that showing up in the NFL isn't that surprising. It stinks that it shows up immediately, like in preseason week 1. But I think obviously wait and see. It's 18 snaps. He made a few catches on offense. It was interesting. They were playing him in the slot. I thought he would probably be on the outside. He played pretty much his entire offense in the slot, which is interesting. But I think he'll be good, man. Like I still think he'll be really good. And it does seem like his focus is going to be on offense. I think he actually ran with the second team defense, which is interesting. So maybe he hasn't earned that first team job on defense just yet, but he's already playing with the starters on offense. And again, it's crazy that he's playing both sides of the ball in the NFL in 2025.
It really is. I think it got undervalued a good bit, and I may have been guilty of it for a bit too when I was on like the Genty Heisman train of just how impressive it is to play at that level on both sides of the ball and in the NFL is kind of remarkable. Yeah, I think offense, very small sample size for him. I think, especially on offense, he's going to be fine. Like, just get the ball in his hands, scheme stuff up for him. He had a couple catches, and they tried to get him in space a little bit. And defense, I'm honestly not that worried because, we have seen plenty of elite corners who just refuse to tackle.
Yeah.
And some that just refuse to do it. They're like, it's not my job. I'm not doing that. And to be honest, to be completely honest, I don't know if you want him tackling. And I know it's kind of a crazy thing to say, but limit the amount of wear and tear on his body and just let him go be a lockdown corner that doesn't get targeted, or when he does, he gets some pass breakups or picks. I think that's the best case for him anyway, is not needing to, mainly have him deployed on defense and in drives where they're going to be passing a lot. Like, I don't think you're going to be wanting his sole job to be coming up in run defense to try to make plays. So I'm not too worried there either.
Yeah, I agree, dude. I agree with that. I mean, he was always known as more of a cover corner. I mean, he's not a good tackler. That was just the facts coming out of Colorado. So I agree with you. I think he'll be fine on both sides of the ball.
All right, let's move on to another first round guy, Shedeur McMillan, who looked pretty solid in his debut as well. Him and Bryce Young seemed to have a connection pretty early on.
They did, dude. They looked really good. We were watching that game. Obviously, Shedeur's debut was happening at the same time. Bryce looked really, really good. And like you said, the T-Mac connection was there immediately. Had the one deep pass, and then Bryce also hit him for what should have been a touchdown that T-Mac was like not ready for. Like he wasn't ready for the anticipation of Bryce throwing that pass. So he was kind of surprised by it. So I don't know if that was actually noted as a drop, but it should have been a touchdown catch. But overall he was getting separation. He looked good. And he easily seems like Bryce's best receiver he's had in the NFL. And Jalen Coker as well. I mean, obviously we're talking about rookies here, but I got to throw Coker out. That offense, all of a sudden, you add Jalen Coker to the mix, T-Mac, Bryce Young. Panthers are another team to watch, man. I think that offense could be a whole lot better than it has been the last couple of years.
Yeah, they definitely had a connection that I don't think Bryce has had with a receiver yet, and that he was supposed to have with Leggett, who got ejected in a preseason game. It's not a great look.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought overall he immediately looked like, it was kind of insane how quickly it was just like try to get the ball to T-Mac, and how he was able to get some separation and use his big body in some situations as well. So I was impressed by him, and hopefully it means Bryce Young has wide receiver one now, which he is desperately needed. So
Yes, no doubt.
cool. All right. Let's talk one more guy in the first round that I want to touch on. I mean, basically half the guys we're talking about from that one game, but I want to touch on Mason Graham because I know we both kind of caught our eye on him a few times. So, the Browns' actual first round pick that they traded back to select after the Jags moved up for Hunter, and he looked like Mason Graham.
Yeah.
He looked like the blue chip player he's supposed to be.
He did. He was very disruptive. I will say he looked small. Like he just
He
looked
did.
small out there compared to other NFL guys, and that was kind of a concern coming out. So that's just something to note going forward. But I am very intrigued by him and Myles Garrett on the same defensive line. It's gonna be fun to watch. But yeah, I think he's gonna be a great player, man. Like you said, he was one of the few blue chip talents in this draft, and I think he showed that.
Yeah, he did look small. It was probably the first thing I think we said to each other was like, now Mason Graham in college does not look like, the same dude at the NFL level, but he did have at least a couple plays in there where he blew up a guard or kind of beat a double team or held his own. And I think that's it, in those situations, it's really all you need to tackle like that. Is at that size, especially if you can hold your anchor against a double team and not let those guys get to the second level, then you're doing your job. And he didn't get to play alongside Myles Garrett, so it's gonna be exciting to see when they're out there together. Cool. Any other notable guys you want to touch on before we jump into our top fives?
No, I think we'll touch on a lot of the guys in the top
Yeah.
five of the guys that we haven't shouted out yet because there's been a lot of good performances. And then I've
Yes.
got some honorable mentions for my top five that we'll touch on. One guy that didn't make my honorable mentions, that's a first rounder, I'll say, is Tyler Warren for the Colts. So I'll shout out my guy, Tyler Warren. He looked really good. He just looked like a guy that's going to be a nice security blanket for whoever's behind center. And just the guy that I'm intrigued to look at what Shane Steichen does with him in the offense. Because I think, he could be a playmaker in that offense, man. So Tyler Warren looked really good and kind of seemed like the guy that people thought he was coming out of Penn State.
Oh yeah, he did. He looked really good. So exciting for AR or Daniel Jones, whoever is out there, maybe Riley Leonard. I'm telling you, man, it's looking like my prediction of Riley Leonard
Stop.
He had the wheels, man. He had the wheels. He looked good.
We'll see.
Except for most of his throwing plays, but
yeah,
he's the third lowest graded PFF quarterback.
Let's hope we see no Riley Leonard this season.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into top fives then. I'll let you go first because I'm cheating the system too much by not really ordering my guys. So I'll let you go first because I know you have yours in order.
I ordered my guys. I did. But I did cheat a little bit with number 5 because I wanted to show love to the rookie QBs. I did because I thought all of them that played significant snaps looked good. Outside of some of the later round guys that we might not mention. But I've got number 5. I've got Jackson Dart / Cam Ward. I had tied them at number 5. Both of them had plays that should have been interceptions, but they both had really good passes, led scoring drives. Obviously, Dart had that incredible throw. So yeah, after week 1, Jackson Dart, Cam Ward. Do you want me to go through my whole list here?
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Yeah.
Number 4, I have Travion Henderson for the Patriots. He looked phenomenal, man. He looked like he's going to be an absolute playmaker in that offense. Obviously had the incredible kick return, but probably his most impressive play was the toss that he got, and he took for like 15 yards. Looked so explosive on that play, man. He just looks like, again, he's going to make immediate impact for that Patriots offense that needs it. Number
and my
3,
fantasy team.
Yeah, and Dakota's fantasy team. Number 3, guy that we touched on a lot already, Shedeur Sanders. Got Shedeur Sanders at number 3. He had a great debut. I thought it was probably the best out of the rookie quarterbacks, especially considering the situation. And then number 2, I have Willie Lampkin. If for any fans out there that don't know Willie Lampkin, undrafted guard / center for the Rams, dude, he was mauling Cowboys defenders, dude. Absolutely mauling them. I sent you a clip of Ford pancakes that Willie Lampkin had in that game, dude. He is my guy. I played center when I played football, and Willie Lampkin was playing center. And dude, he's like 5'11". He's probably like the smallest center in the NFL. To me, he's shaped like a square. Like he just looks like a square. That's how wide he is, but that's how short he is as well. Really fun to watch, dude. He was phenomenal. He has to, again, undrafted guy. Those guys are definitely not guaranteed to make the roster. In my opinion, after this debut, there's no way he doesn't make the roster. And really, he should be considered for a starting position, man. Because people are talking about like, oh, well, it's the backups. It's like, well, to me, the backup Cowboys defensive line is surely better than 95% of the defensive lines he played in college in the ACC. There's no way it's not. So, like, I don't care. And yeah, exactly. And there's no way. I mean, dude, he was, again, making grown men look like kids out there with some of these pancakes and long blocks that he had. And then number one, to me, a guy that we haven't touched on yet, who has been, I mean, he was the best prospect coming out and looked like the best prospect in week one of preseason on a very small sample, Abdul Carter. He had 3 pass rushing snaps against the starting Bills offensive line. We're talking Deion Dawkins, who is in the NFL top 100, ranked in the top 40, I believe. One of the best tackles in the NFL, had 2 wins against Deion Dawkins. He also lined up at 3 tech with Brian Burns on the same side of the line and had a win against Osiris Torrance for the Bills. He was phenomenal. I mean, 3 out of 3 pass rushing snaps, all pressures. A couple of them dominant wins. One of his win against Deion Dawkins was just absolutely dominant, dude. I mean, he barely got a hand on him. He literally barely got a hand on Abdul Carter. Abdul Carter is gonna be a star. I mean, that's one of those guys that's just like, because I'm also looking at the college tape and adding that to the small sample in the NFL. It's like, this dude is going to be the next great pass rusher in the NFL. So I got Abdul Carter, number 1.
So I don't have mine ordered, but I will say that guys that we had the same, I have Dart / Shedeur. So I don't have Cam on mine. I thought Dart and Shedeur impressed me more. I have Willie Lampkin on mine. Got to shout out that. I mean,
love it.
Every play, what you described, and then that one where he literally went up to the second level and spun to then pick up the linebacker, which was just insane to me as a center out here doing stuff. Like, he moves with such finesse, but like violently at his size. It's crazy. Go watch some Willie Lampkin highlights if you haven't. You got to find that clip on Twitter if you don't know him.
So good.
Abdul Carter, obviously, he looked the part. He looked elite.
He looked elite.
And then the 2 guys I have on mine that are different. I have Nick Scorton. So the edge rusher out of TAMU. He only had 8 pass rushing snaps, but had 2 pressures. So he had a 25% pressure rate. He got really credited for a sack that, to be honest, I think he deserves credit for just for the hustle. So it was the play that Shedeur rolls to his left. And when he spins back, Nick Scorton was the guy that was the last guy to get kind of broke. But he put on his jets and came all the way back across the field to be the guy that forced Shedeur out to get credited for the sack. So, like, I thought he played really well overall, run game wise and pass rushing. But that hustle play is something, as a coach, I feel like you have to leave that game thinking we got a guy who did not give up on a play. And then the last guy is Eric Rodgers, the corner for the Chargers, who had 2 interceptions, including a pick 6 on old Tyler Shuck. And then he picked off Jake Hayner to end the game. Elite. He played in the Hall of Fame game as well, so it's kind of like a double debut. But he has the most. He has 40. He has 51 snaps played, which is probably one of the most by any rookie. And he has like a 97 PFF grade. So the dude, I think he got hurt at the end of that game. Hope it wasn't serious, but the dude, he locked down. I mean, the one pick 6 he had, he jumped an out route and was able to beat Shuck's arm on it. And then he was just in good position on the Hayner when to make a play. So was really impressed by him. And he's a UDFA as well. So that's worth shouting.
Yeah. He's definitely worth shouting out. I will say it probably helped playing that Saints QB room a little bit. Shuck was pretty late on that throw, but I mean overall he's been phenomenal, dude. Especially for a UDFA. I mean, it looks like they found a legitimate starter on their hands, so that was huge. And if you look at Harbaugh's face after he got hurt, I mean Harbaugh was like devastated that he's hurt on the field because he realizes it's like there's a reason this guy's getting so many opportunities in preseason games. It's because he's impressed in practice. Like that's why you get the playing time in the games. And then he's impressed in the games. It's like, well, dang, if we lose this guy, that's going to be actually a huge loss for this season. So yeah, he was extremely impressive.
And from your list that I didn't touch on, Travion, he was one of the guys that was very close to making mine because that kickoff return showed his electricity immediately. His one play with the toss, and then he also like immediately showed how effective he's going to be in the passing game as well. Like,
yep.
They got a dude. They got a dude on their hands.
I do. I know. And it's like, I don't want to overreact to Genty, not his bad game. He got 3 carries. Let's not overreact to Genty. But dude, Travion, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up being the best running back out of this class. Just how explosive he looked on an NFL field, which that matters, man. It doesn't always translate. The explosion doesn't always translate, but it did for him immediately.
And the Patriots offensive line looked better, which helped. Whereas with Genty, it's worth noting that the reason he had negative yards because he got hit 3 yards in the backfield on one play. And the offensive line did not look good. So it's hard to have a good elite running back. Saquon is, we won't spend too much time on that, but look at Saquon.
Yep.
What he did in New York, and then he goes to an elite offensive line. You usually need to build the O-line first. So hopefully fill in for Genty there. All right, I'm going to just throw out a handful. I have a ton of honorable mentions, just guys I at least want to make note of. First one being Marcus Mbo, the tackle / guard, but I think he was playing at tackle for the Giants. Again, talking about a draft class for this Giants team. He looked really good. He played a lot of snaps and was pretty well, played well in the run game and specifically pass blocking. I think he had an over an 80 PFF grade in both. So he looked solid. Another guy I want to shout out is LeJontay Wester, fellow Colorado guy to Shedeur. He had a punt return touchdown.
He did.
And then he also looked pretty good on offense as well, but immediately showed his electricity. And then one other guy is Bashaw Tootin. He played pretty well for the Jags. And there was a play that impressed the hell out of me of him where he got hit at like the 4 or 5 and dude just churned his legs and managed to turn it into a touchdown and like showed his fight. So have to give him a shout out. I have a couple other guys too, but I'll let you say a few.
So I only had one guy on here. I thought I had more, but I wrote down Mike Green, 30% pass rush win rate in his debut. His bend was unbelievable from the few pass rushing snaps that he had. Again, not playing against starters. Most of his production was against Blake Freeland. But it's still, I mean, again, he looked apart, man. He looked like he had NFL-type juice off the edge, and which has really been the missing piece in that Ravens defense. So could you imagine if they just walked into an elite pass rusher in the second round with already an absolutely loaded roster? Scary proposition for the AFC North.
Yeah, for sure. And he was a guy that was very close to making mine. I was debating him and Scorton, but I wanted to give Scorton a little bit more love. But yeah, Mike Green looked, because being honest, like the Ravens have kind of been desperate for a true elite pass rusher on the edge for a while.
Long time.
So if they have one, that is a bit scary. Just a couple other guys I want to shout out. Gray Zabel and Torrey Horton. Shout out some of the Seahawks dudes. Torrey Horton looked really good for being a late round pick. Looked really good. Isaac Tesla looked really good. Looks like Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes may have known. They may have been cooking when they took him.
They did it again, man.
So he looked pretty good. And then last guy I want to shout out because it's just an interesting one is Donovan Edwards. Donovan Edwards was actually the highest graded running back for PFF in week 1, but he actually had 9 carries.
Athlete, Dakota.
Yeah, he's that maybe, dude. He's wearing number 40 for what it's worth. The dude is wearing number 40, so that looks brutal.
Get him a new number if he makes the roster, please.
Please don't let him be like Kamara and forever taint what should have been an elite aesthetic for Kamara having to wear 41 for his career. But he had 9 carries, he averaged 4.7 yards, and he forced 2 missed tackles. So he had a solid debut for the old cover athlete.
The old cover athlete, as Dakota likes to point out.
Now I do want to touch on some of the more notably bad debuts, which mainly the quarterbacks, and I don't want to spend time trashing on them, but I feel like we at least need to cover them and let people know what we thought. We'll start with the guy that we've probably trashed more than anybody, like inadvertently throughout the whole draft process, and now,
Mr.
which is Tyler
Shuck.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts on Shuck?
Should we take our victory laps already? No, we won't do that because we're not the shouty shows. But I mean, Shuck wasn't off. I mean, it wasn't all bad for Shuck. But I think what I'm noticing from Shuck is that, yeah, it's not all bad. He has good play in there. He has solid to average play in there. But when it's bad, it's detrimental, man. It's just like it's like you lose the game kind of bad, and that's the problem with Shuck. It's like you're late on a comeback route, and you throw a pick six to a guy that it looked good, but it was still very late. Like it was all on Tyler Shuck, and it's a back-breaking play. That's a back-breaking play. You give the team 7 points. That's not good. Outside of that, he was solid. He made some good throws in there. That one touchdown pass he had, the guy had a ton of separation, but he still hit him. And the guy scored. So, I mean, again, it wasn't all bad, but when he makes a mistake, it's just like a game-ending kind of mistake. That's the problem with Shuck.
Yeah, and the touchdown was wide open, but he at least did hit it. Some guys would have maybe missed it, or missed it in terms of like not even seeing the guy streaking on that double move. But yeah, to be honest, watching him play, and I know he's been kind of compared to him, but he's very Levis-esque. Very Levis-esque. And I mean, his most abysmal play in college is like worse than anything Levis has really done, that just throw it away thing.
Which says
but I just feel like that's him. Yeah, because he does have some solid play in him. And I think down to down, he was okay. He was all right. He wasn't bad. But yeah, you're right. Like when you do then make those mistakes, it's just crippling. Like you throwing a pick six on a play like that, and again, that's finding out that was his introduction, right? Like Cam Ward, what we can say about the other guys is that all 4 of the other guys we touched on, 3, Cam, Shedeur, and Jackson, all had what probably should have been picks
interceptions.
At some point.
Yep.
Dropped. And Shuck didn't. He was one of the ones where it got caught. His may have been the worst looking. Cam's was pretty bad too, to be honest. That should have been caught. But that's just a play on variance there, and like his being brutal enough that it was a pick six, but his learning curve was immediately more intense than the others in terms of what you can or can't do at this level.
That's a good point, because like the other guy should have had picks, but they got kind of lucky and the guy dropped it. Shuck wasn't lucky enough. But it was also one of those things, it's not just any old interception. It's like it's a comeback route where it's going to be a pick six. So yeah, but like I will say with Shuck though, and we'll kind of get into the other guys that you're hitting at. Shuck didn't look like out of place. He wasn't panicking in the pocket. He looked like, okay, he belongs in the league. Now, does that mean he should be a starter in the league? We'll see. Like he's going to have an entire regular season to figure that out, because I think he will end up winning that job. Because I do think he played better than Rattler in the same game.
Yes.
But it's not all. It's definitely not all bad. But to me, kind of like what you're saying, it's Levis-esque. It's like when it's bad, it loses you football games, which is not good.
It's not what you want. No. So a couple other guys to touch on, I mentioned Riley Leonard earlier. We won't spend a ton of time on him. Throwing wise, just he was pretty good. He did have the legs though. I will say the one thing that translated that I thought was impressive was his running. But two of the guys I want to touch on are the 2 worst performances. And just to say too, like Jalen Milroe didn't look too bad. He didn't play a ton.
Milroe
he had a turnover-worthy play in there, but his athleticism immediately looked up to par.
Yeah.
Got to shout out Seth Hennigan because he was technically the highest graded, and I liked him coming out of Memphis because I had some bias to using him in a dynasty last year. But shout out Seth Hennigan for the Jags. But yeah, the two worst performances by far, and is exactly what you were touching on, where they just did not look like they belonged in the NFL, were
Correct.
Quinn Ewers and Graham Mertz. And we'll start with Quinn. Actually, we'll start with Graham. We'll finish with Quinn. But Graham had some of the worst plays of the entire preseason week one, I think.
He did. And I think one reason we touch on guys like this, because it kind of bumps up the other performances to me, because like these are again rookies in their first NFL action, guys that were compared to some of the other guys that we've talked about in this class, especially Quinn. Quinn was a projected first round pick at some point during last season. Didn't last long, but he was at some point. So like, again, it's like it matters when some of these guys come out as rookies and look comfortable, because then you have the guys like Graham Mertz and Quinn Ewers who they don't look like they belong, and they didn't look comfortable out there whatsoever. And yeah, Graham Mertz was making some horrendous throws. I mean, just terrible decisions. And yeah, so it looks like Mertz is a guy that, I would be shocked at this point if he made that team.
I was kind of surprised he got drafted, to be honest, because he was situated with Florida, for those that don't know, where he actually got hurt against Tennessee. DJ Lagway came in and he was done for the year, but like it kind of created the Lagway saga where like Florida fans were more optimistic and happy about their situation way at the helm. And it's no knock on Mertz, but and then Quinn's is probably the most disappointing, I think, of most of these rookies. I would describe it as disappointing because the guy goes in like the 7th round or whatever of somebody who was projected to be a first round pick for majority of his college career. Goes in the 7th and then just played abysmally. Goes 5 of 18, has 2 turnovers, couldn't hold the ball. He had a fumbling problem, and just did not look comfortable out there.
Quinn looked so uncomfortable. I wonder if it was an offensive thing. Like it was so bad that it almost felt like a coaching disaster on top of the players not looking good. Quinn, like you said, at some point was projected first round, number 1 recruit in his recruiting class, a guy who we thought, during the draft process and after the draft and our reviews, we thought taking a 7th round flyer was a good move on Miami's part. And it still is, like from a process perspective, whether it works out or not. But dude, Quinn in the pocket, he just looked terrified. Like he didn't trust the pocket at all. I mean, you sent me a play where he basically is just like panic feet and then just like spammed it out of bounds, which did they end up calling intentional grounding? If they didn't call intentional grounding, it probably should have been. I mean, it was terrible, dude. He looked completely panicked in the pocket. Like you said, he had the fumbles in there. Again, a guy that, from a 1-game sample, which again, this is all on a 1-game sample. So I just said Mertz should get cut. That's probably not true. We need to see a little bit more, and we will see more during the preseason. But in this 1-game sample, it didn't look like Quinn Ewers belonged in the NFL. That's how rough it looked in game 1.
Yeah, and we'll still add that same nuance of like, we need more data points and to be able to see him play more. But to your original point, I think that's kind of why I wanted to bring these guys up. And sorry to Texans and Dolphins fans and Saints fans, kind of using your pain or the negative to elevate other guys. But it's worth noting that, right? Like, it makes what the other guys did right out of the gate, a bit more impressive, because when we do talk about the nuanced conversation around running victory laps versus saying, oh, it's just preseason. Well, it's like, this is the other end of that spectrum of like, this is what could also happen in preseason. Exactly. Where it could literally look like horrible quarterback play. So, but yeah, and I don't take back, obviously stand by what we said in terms of Quinn and the process there of taking a guy like that. And we'll see, I think you're right too. He did look like, it was bizarre. He panicked. That's the only way to describe it. Because that one you described, like he wasn't even really under pressure when he threw it away. Nope. He just got scared and he threw the ball out of bounds. Exactly. So it's like he did not feel comfortable. And I think you're right. It could be completely like maybe he's not gotten enough reps or something, but to be able to feel like I know what's actually going on here, to feel comfortable, analyzing it and then executing on it. So we'll see how these guys look, when they get a little bit more snaps here throughout the rest of the preseason. Any other guys you want to touch on, positive, negative, or anything that stood out from the first week of preseason?
I'll shout out another Colt, JTT. He had 4 pressures and a sack. From PFF, he looked really good. So we'll see what he can do. But yeah, I mean, a lot of good rookie performances, man. I'm excited to see more tape of these guys, especially some of the guys we shouted out like Willie Lampkin. I'm gonna have my eye all over Willie Lampkin tape. But yeah, I mean, I thought again high level. The quarterbacks overall looked pretty good. And some guys like Travion and Abdul that are clearly going to make huge impacts on teams that need it.
For sure. I think one thing that kind of stood out, and it's because of the small sample size playing receiver, it's really hard to draw conclusions on a lot of dudes because they only played 15 to 20 snaps and only half of those are passing and only a quarter of those go to them. So not a lot was learned, I think, from the receivers yet. Some guys at least look good in terms of being able to create separation. But those are some of the guys I think I'm most excited watching is once they get some more opportunities to actually make plays and get the ball in their hands. To be honest, when a lot of these guys get cut as we get down to the preseason of where, guys who may be stealing some reps that won't even be on the team at that time.
Sure.
But yeah, overall, I feel like, a lot of guys looked good. And, again, sorry if we didn't get to some of the guys that, played well. We obviously know that a ton of dudes, had solid debuts. But so feel free, leave a comment. Let us know who's some of your favorite. Who did we miss, right? From your team or who you just noticed? Shout out that 7th round guy that I didn't notice at left guard. Let us know about those guys. But yeah, excited to see all these guys play again this upcoming week. Appreciate everybody that tuned in live and that watched this afterwards. Appreciate all the support. Please like, share, hit that subscribe button. Getting a lot of views lately, which is awesome. Our
Need
QB
more
rankings.
subs, though.
We do. We appreciate it a lot. We got a lot of views on our QB rankings video and our Shedeur one, but not many subscribers. So, hit that subscribe button. We'll keep giving you content like this. We appreciate everybody for tuning in. But yeah, until next time.
Thanks for talking ball with us.